Hey everyone, so I thought I'd do a video demonstrating how I created some interesting creature sounds using just my own voice. I'll be taking you through my workflow on how I recorded, edited and produced some of these sounds, and I'll play the sounds now so you can get an idea of what to expect. So this first sound that I'm going to make is done by vibrating my tonsils, and you might recognise the sound from movies like Predator or games like The Last of Us. So it's mainly like quite a high pitch clicking sound done by vibrating your tonsils. So I'll just give a demonstration now. What I might do with that in post-production is cut out the lows of my voice. You can hear the breath coming through, so I'm just left with the clicks at the top. So for this one, it's probably going to sound like a gross ASMR vomiting. However, I think it's going to work really well. So basically you just get some water and then knock some backs, and then you get a really moist, watery throat, and then you sort of breathe out but whilst pushing your chest in. So it's like a... So it's basically like something's being impaled. So I'll do a couple of them now. So the first thing I done after editing all the clips was downloaded a couple of different videos off of YouTube as a reference for my creature's movement. So the first noise is throat clicking, so I'll just give that a play. So that was the Krakatoa one, which I recorded. And that one's nice and guttural. So I immediately thought that this creature would be some sort of massive alien from the Alien series. So I definitely wanted to incorporate some clicking. So if I add now the throat gargles, add them in. Just turn the reverb off again. So that's my throat gargling. So those are the tongue movements, throat gargles and tongue movement. So that adds a bit more sogginess to the throat clicking. If I add that one back in. And on the throat gargle, I've just got a simple EQ here, just bringing out the most interesting part of the middle area. That one's got nothing on it, and this one has a chopper. So what I've done with the chopper is sort of acting like a tremolo, and it's just cutting off really quickly, so it sounds a lot like the throat clicking. So if I add them both in. So that adds a bit more texture and a bit more movement in the gargle. So if I turn it off. And turn it back on. So it just adds a bit more movement. So all of them together sound like this. And now moving on to the whine. This is more of a screech. So I've noticed in a lot of movies of late, they always have a really high screech with the massive creatures. So that was the one where I was sort of inhaling, like an inhale whine, a lot like a pig. And on these, both of these, I've added VST amp rack. So the amp rack is just simulating a guitar amp, and this helps to give the sound space and a place in the mix. So if I play this again, it also adds a lot of distortion and gain to the sound. So it sounds more like a Godzilla scream. If I add that with the rest of these that I've just played, turn off the reverb. So if I move now on to the low elements, I wanted to add a bit of low rumble, just because of the size of the creature, because you can see all the hills in the background is pretty big. So it's just a low sort of chest rumble. I always try to stick with elements high, mid and low. And that one just has a chopper on it again, a little bit of reverb and the amp rack again, just so it gives it a bit of space. Now if I move on to the Foley squelch, this was a little bit I added in after I didn't think it was wet enough, the sound that was coming from it. I thought it'd be a lot more guttural. So I've added in some shoe sounds. So these are just clips from when I went and done some field recording. And this is both from Falmouth Estuary. So those are just foot squelches. You could do the same sort of effect with a plunger and a bucket full of mud, for example. So now if I blend them all in and mute the reverb. That's quite a convincing creature sound. And I just added the reverb at the end just to tie everything in, just sort of glue it all together. So all of these is sending their signals to the reverb. And it also helps to change these mono clips into a nicer stereo clip. So for the next creature sound, I wanted to do something completely different to the first one. So I focused mainly on low rumbles, and that's why I chose to reference Tiger. So again, it's quite guttural, but it's vibrating a lot more. So if I show you first low grunt. So that is just my voice, again, pitched down an octave. So if I go up here and show you, in Cubase you go Audio, Process, Pitch Shift, and it's pretty simple. You move the blue one, whichever one you want, and then if I do a preview, this will be an octave again, but it just shows you. So it's just pitch shifting elements down, and I also time stretch this a little bit. So on Cubase again, if you want to time stretch it quickly, you push 1 and then 1 again, and then that changes your cursor to be able to time stretch files. Alternatively, you can go up here and change it to normal sizing again. So that's just how you can time stretch quickly. You could also do it from Audio, Process, and down here it's time stretch. That's the same thing again, but I prefer to just tap 1 a couple of times and then drag it around here. So with the rest of the low elements, I just started blending them together and doing the same process again. So this is just time stretched a bit, and I'm pretty sure this is a mix. Yeah, it's the same file, but then I reversed the end of it. So I'll just give you a demonstration now. So that's a nice low rumble. And with this one, I added a couple of elements. So like the previous one, I've added bass amp again, just to give it its space. So the bass amp adds a lot more gain to the sound, and that makes it a bit more gritty. I'll add the rest of the low grunts in. This one's also got bass amp on it. So all of these have been manipulated with time stretch and pitch shifting. So if I play all the low elements together. I thought that was almost there, almost finished with that sound, but I wanted to add in a little bit of gargling and clicking. So if you've ever heard a tiger or a lion or a big cat before, they have quite a gargly, wet voice. So I'll play this now. So it's a little bit like the first creature, except the clicking is a lot lower in the mix. It's very subtle, but it's just on the end of the sound, just when his throat gets a lot wetter. I'll play the second one as well. And I was just trying to follow the shape of the creature's mouth. That's why it's really great to have reference videos that you can copy the movement from the creatures. It's not copying the sounds, the original sounds at all. It's basically just using the creature's face and its body as a reference for how you want to manipulate the sound. So if I add all of these together without the reverb, also forgotten to add all of the effects. So this is quite contrasting to the first one. A lot of very low elements. And same thing as the first one, added a little bit of reverb. Added a little bit of reverb just to tie all the sounds together and make the creatures sound larger. Play the first one again. And the second one. Thanks very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, please leave a comment below and feel free to give me any other suggestions on future videos that I could do. Cheers.